Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah, you are now rocking with the best. You are now entering into A-Deuce territory. Comprised of Supernova Slum, King the Medicine Man, I Scared the Duke of Tears. Been here for about 1 billion years, but we're about to get right into it right now. So yeah, Supernova Slum, let's get here.
Your hands no eyes here. What it took for us to get here. Grand name of sinner, grand representative. Southside, more some planet Brooklyn. Killing and killing my rhythm is spinning. I'm beating you haters is where from. Wait up for Ada, us natives, no fakers. Salute us, maneuver us, the sonic women group us. Who us, Supernova Slum. This here seven, all in our here. We the warriors man. On the Falcon clan, swing and expand. It's like brain, think about it coming in. I'm in, go play gangsta with the guys on my side. Make the dead come alive. 8-2-3-2, my eyes 4-2, pie Heru. Heat up from the beat up, get the skeleton to the streets. Beat, suck, hey, suck, hey, suck. You know what it is, what it is. It's a systematic. It's two kings, two guns, boom, and it's with the bad chicks on them late baby. Hey, suck, you know what it is, what it is. It's a systematic. It's two kings, two guns, boom, and it's with the bad chicks.
Well, I would like to introduce myself, and my name is Aseer. I'm a Duke of Tears, and I've been here for years. And now I'm about to rock cold, shock your ears, and make your pain disappear like it wasn't even there. Just listen to my words and the bottle of it here. And boom, it's like I'm there, taking away your fear that you thought was out there. It was really in here. Get the roaches like a bear, but I'm gentle like a dove. I always come prepared, cause I come from up above. Got a blood like I'm over here. Live my life Victoria, just as big as I can. Show the vibe with my hands, make the dumb understand that it's the Duke of Tears and it's the medicine. Turn a whack jam into American dancing. Have the party people doing handstands in Roseland.
A's up, you know what it is, what it is. It's a systematic scene. It's two kings, two guns, boom, and it's with the bad chicks on them late baby. A's up, you know what it is, what it is. It's a systematic scene. It's two kings, two guns, boom, and it's with the bad chicks on them late baby. A's up, you know what it is, what it is. It's a systematic scene. It's two kings, two guns, boom, and it's with the bad chicks on them late baby. A's up, you know what it is, what it is. It's a systematic scene. It's two kings, two guns, boom, and it's with the bad chicks on them late baby.
Peace, human families of the planet Earth. How y'all doing? I'm your host, Aseer the Duke of Tears. Here with my co-host, Saga Shai, Selena in the episode 10,000 Years. Amar, and you. Thank you guys for tuning in and being here with us and always holding us down. Especially peace to those people in the chat and those people who are maybe our first installment or our first time listeners. Definitely want to say thank you for tuning in and coming through. You know. Wow, that's crazy. So, you know, thank you guys again for participating with us every week and holding it up and maintaining with us, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of stuff going on. You know, we want to definitely get into it and build with the people, you know what I mean? But we definitely want to give a shout-out also to the ancestors who have been holding us down, who always continue to hold us down, even though sometimes I feel like they could be doing more, you know what I'm saying, to keep it real, or some other shit, like just because they're ancestral spirits or whatever, don't absolve them from doing the work that they're supposed to do for you as well, because they cannot incarnate fully in this reality of not by way through us or through you. So if you building with them and you giving them all types of food and alms and candles and incense and all this type of stuff, and then shit in your life still ain't going a certain way, that means that it could be a thing with them where they trying to play games with you, where They may not want to necessarily get you to get everything you could get because they may feel like once you get it, you may not be as pious or forthcoming with all the snacks and treats or whatever as you was before. Well, again, man, that's all BS. You know what I mean? Everybody got a job to do here. You know what I mean? From the hustlers to the strugglers. You know what I'm saying? So in that, everybody got to pull their weight. So again, based on that, it's situations that arise with you and you dealing with this ancestral work and this ancestral magic. You got to also be practical and real about what it is you see coming from it and what it is you don't. I had a brother I have a brother who's very powerful brother, man, very powerful. And he basically told me how he went through a whole steez where he kicked all the ancestors out his crib because they would act like they was playing games. He was supposed to get a car. He got the car, but then the car got stolen. He got the house, but then the house got foreclosed on. So he was like, I felt like these niggas was playing. So I basically just was like, you know what? Y'all playing games with me. I'm giving y'all all of this stuff. Y'all ain't doing what y'all supposed to do. I'm not going to do what I need to do. And I can't do what I need to do if y'all don't help. So I'm going to do bad all by myself. And this way I could save more money on candles and everything else. And he did it. And he said, I took down the altar, blew out the candles. He said, blew out the candles, put everybody in boxes, put them in the closet. That was that. I was like, well, damn. Like, I said, well, what happened? He said, right after that, shit started flowing. So that's how, when I'm relaying you the message, like, as real and as metaphysically and spiritually aware and capable and powerful as we are, you got to be a realist, too. Everybody. You got to be realist, too. You got to have common sense as much as you have metaphysical sense. If it don't make sense on a common level, 10 chances to 1, it ain't going to make sense on a metaphysical one either. So you got to become, or we should become, more discerning as to where and how that energy is dispersed amongst us, as well as what we do with the energy once we get it. You know what I'm saying? So, just in dealing with that and putting that out there, this is not about us worshiping deities and putting people above you and subordinate yourself. This is also not about making yourself feel like you're something more than you are in terms of having an inflated sense of yourself or whatever. You know what I mean? This is not about that either. This is specifically about us, all of us, reaching a level of understanding in our lives that we can actively see the fruits of our labor in the life that we're living now, as opposed to waiting for us to be dead and then attributing some sort of fictitious happiness from that, which really does not help anyone and is an outmoded form of thinking anyway. You know what I mean? That is not conducive to getting us where we all need to go. So with that all being said, every once in a while, as much as we hear so many things negative happening in the world and to our children and stuff like that, every once in a while, though, something happens in the so-called fiction, which we refer to as Western society or Western ideology, that really shows you that somebody else upstairs is really in control. And what I'm referring to specifically, and I know nobody has heard this in the news, if you hadn't, you need to look for it, but the other day, this affects everyone too, the other day, the Supreme Court basically ruled that all of the foreclosures and all of that has been taking place and been ruining the country are all illegal. I'm going to say it again. All of the foreclosures that have taken place within the past 5 years, from when the subprime loan scandal started to now, they are saying that all of those loans, all of those foreclosures, all of those mortgages that were basically fixed and hooked up and fell victim to the derivatives and Ponzi scheme market, they're saying that all of those loans are basically null and void, and all of those foreclosures are then null and void. Do you understand what this means, y'all? You understand what this means? The case that this was done was in the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court and was handed down in the decision of Francis J. Bevilacqua III versus Pablo Rodriguez. And basically, they came out and it basically just said it. You know what I'm saying? So what this means, what this basically is that there's going to be a nationwide class action suit, okay? Meaning that anybody that got their house foreclosed on, all of that, the state came in, called the sheriff, did all of that was illegal. I mean, we knew that, but now it's in their so-called law, you understand? So what this means is that you should not buy any homes that are in foreclosure right now. If you trying to do what they call a short sale on that shit, hold off on it because you might, God forbid, you get the crib, you might have to get that crib right back up. Because 10 chances to 1, the state or the bank don't own it, which means nobody owns these houses, which means nobody owns any houses in the United States. You heard? If you got a mortgage, you don't own your house. We knew that. But what they're saying now is that at least at one time the bank was fronting like you did. Now they coming out and basically said that the bank has been lying to you all along. Okay? The other aspect, it basically says, again, the Massachusetts Examiner basically put out in their paper, it said that a lower Massachusetts court had already ruled against the buyer of a foreclosure, saying they had no right to the property due to being foreclosed on by the fraudulent MERS banks. Excuse me. That court case is now going through the Supreme Court again, as the buyer keeps trying to get the property that he purchased 3 years ago, but he can't get the property that he got through the foreclosed short sale because the people who sold it to him didn't own the house. So how are he going to own the house? All right? The other aspect of that, again, is due to downs to this. You know, the Supreme Court, like I said, has ruled now against the buyer, just as the lower court did that. So the Supreme Court upheld what the lower court said. So basically that means that if this was to translate, this means that technically no person who is an immigrant to this country is actually really a citizen of this country because they came over here through erroneous means. So again, the criminals, the slaves, the mass murderers, the serial killers, the Neanderthal, these are the people who came over here and made deals to purchase land through the government. Therefore, if the government was never really the land purchaser or land holder, regardless of whatever allodial title they was trying to flip, that means that none of these people own anything. This now leaves the door open for a massive class action suit for everyone in the country, basically to go and demand that stimulus money that was put to the banks go back to refinancing and re-putting equity back into these houses. But the government ain't going to do that. Like I said, this is major, but you don't see nobody was talking about this on the news. I've been watching the news ever since I found out about this 3 days ago. No newscasters is talking about this shit. How come? Wouldn't this be great for people to know? They'll tell you that the housing market is fucked up and all that other shit and who fucked it up, but they won't tell you how to fix it. The way to fix it is to, if this nigga, like if he really wanted to do something, this nigga that they call a president, if he really wanted to do something, all he would have to do is invoke an executive order every day until until the unemployment situation in the housing market was to get rectified. He could do that. He do that with dumb shit. So why can't you do that with shit that actually would help people? They don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. So this ruling from Massachusetts is definitely going to be important all around the country, just due to the fact that there are already several dozen class action suits along this lines of nature anyway. So then what happens is the Massachusetts Supreme Court rules over the buyer of the home and saying that he don't have no rights to the property, that the property was fraudulently foreclosed on. That means that every property that the bank foreclosed on between 2002 and 2011 was illegal, was not real. You understand? They was putting out an average, they were saying that every 10 minutes they was foreclosing on a house. So now the shit done come out to say that they don't, not only did they not have the right to foreclose on the house, they didn't even have a right to sell the house because the banks are not real estate agents. Banks do not have money. The only thing banks can do is hold and loan money. So basically, essentially what they did, for those people who are still fuzzy on how this thing went down, the most reliable people who paid their mortgages on time, the majority of people who did this, quote-unquote minority people, a.k.a. poor people, a.k.a. black people, with the least money, they're the ones who pay their bills or their mortgage and they shit first. Because, again, we know what it's like not to have no house. We know what it's like to sleep outside. We know what it's like to have to figure out where the next meal and all this shit is coming from. We know all that stuff. So whenever we get to a point where we can get some out of control, though, to actually get a house and get something that we could think we own, of course we're going to make sure that that shit get paid. Even if other bills got some fault to it, the mortgage is going to get paid, okay? That's how we do. So we built up so much equity in these houses by making sure that these mortgages was paid and shit on time and all of that we created a standing line, an unofficial standing line of credit that was vouchable by the banks themselves. You know who was defaulting on the credit swaps? You know who's defaulting on their loans? These rich white people who's getting, these rich, quote-unquote, white people, as well as black people who think that they white, that got some Jew accountant, tax lawyer, whatever, to hook their shit up so that way they wouldn't have to pay equity in on deductibles and shit. But what happens, see, the difference between black folk and white folk getting houses is that when black folk get houses, black folk got to come up with money. So there's a certain degree of money that's put down. They did away with that when they created what they call ninja loans. A ninja loan is a no-income, no-job accepted loan, meaning you don't have no income, no job, no proof of job, no future job, and we're still going to give you this house because we're betting on the fact that you don't have the ability to pay for that, and we're selling your default before you actually default on property. So with black people, when they buy houses and equity and property like that, they have to buy something with cash or got to put something down. When white folk go get a house, when white folk go do something, they're going based on a line of credit or they're going with something that has been established in the form of credit, which is a debt, which is a promise to pay.
And I'm glad that this is what happened because some I love you.
I'm waiting for you to go because I can't hear.
I love you.
You know what I'm saying? It's a situation now where you now put yourself in a position to be that. So these, like I said, these Caucasian people, when they come in with the game and they do all of that, they coming in with no money. You see? But they're not the ones who bore the brunt of the scheme. They're the ones who got away with some of the scheme. The people who bore the brunt and lost their house in the scheme was the black folk, because the black folk used a debt instrument to accrue some sort of equity. But ask yourself this. If they made black people, so-called Negroes, so-called Africans, so-called slaves, 3/5 of men, and that 3/5 equates to property, how could property then own property? Your house can't own itself. Same thing. When you get locked up and you go to the court and they take you before the magistrate or whatever, and they read your case, what do they say? The state versus such and such and such. But don't you live in New York State? Aren't you a part of New York State enough for them to bring you in? So how can you, as a member of the state, bring suit against yourself? These are some of the things we don't really do the knowledge to. And the little shit, the detail shit is what gets us jammed up. Because we don't apply common sense to what's going on. Common sense is if this person ain't got no money to rent a house, how is this person going to have money to pay for a house? He can't, unless we create a system in which we make him think or make her think that they got the money to get the house or can get the house or whatever. And then what we do is we put it on them. We let them rock in their house for, let's say, 2 or 3 years. Then we up the interest rate on them so that way they can't pay even if they could. And then we take the house anyway, put it into short sale, and then make a dividend and then make a profit off of that. But then before we even do all of that, we're selling the default on the property that hasn't even defaulted yet. And these are the people who are going to you and telling you that you got to have an education, that it's profitable for you to go into finance, whatever that. What business is war by another means, okay? Especially when you're dealing with these crackers. But business is supposed to do something that contributes to the greater society. What are these bankers or anybody in this financial arena contributing to society on a whole other than more debt? What is your bank giving you other than some place for you to hold your money? Really? Really? The same banks now that back in the days when I didn't know no better, I'm trying to get a small business loan to start a business. These niggas basically wanted everything. They wanted everything except a quart of blood. Then right after I say, screw that, I'm going to go do me and stop dealing with that altogether, started getting more on the sovereign tip or whatever, then they start giving loans just for nothing. They just coming up with reasons. Just telling people, hey, you know what, your house is like a bank. Because you paid for it or you paid so much productive equity into it, you can borrow money and use your house as a collateral. And God forbid, if you can't pay it, in the end, we either refinance your house or worse come to worse, you got to put it up and sell it and then maybe get a nice condo or something else instead. This is how they was mucking in this to old women, 80-year-old grandmothers. You know what I'm saying? Or first-time home buyers. Or people who have been renting their whole life. Now they look like they could actually have something. So then the criteria became lax, and then in that people, again, became lax because they stopped paying. Because they was told that they didn't have to. So based on all of skullduggery now, it has come out in court that all of that was illegal. So that means everybody that was kicked out of their house, everybody who committed suicide because they was going to lose their house, everybody who was in situations where they didn't know what was going on, where they may have even gone crazy, literally insane. Because, you know, not having money can make you feel crazy. Not having dough in your pocket and not being able to really rock how you want to rock based on the lack of dough, it can make you feel like, you can almost feel like you're crazy. And it's real. But see, white folk ain't never had to go through it like that. And those that did, they kept them locked up in the back. You don't really hear about that. Because white people want to make it seem like they've always been in a pristine state. They want to make it seem like they've always been in situations where they've been over you and telling you how to live your life. Okay? And again, when I say that you could say white folk, I'm talking about Caucasian people who are functioning under that deluded sense of superiority, as well as any people who is not Caucasian who is striving to be that by throwing their own people under the bus. So I can't be any more self-explanatory than that of what I mean and who I'm talking about. So So you can't. So just to keep it direct as to who and what I'm talking about. People like to find offense and shit that you'll tell them sometimes, so that way they don't have to pay attention to you and the relevance of what it is you bring it to them. That's why, regardless to who or what, I listen to anybody and everybody, because you never know where the next jewel going to come from. But if you cut yourself off from listening to it because this person happens to be a cracker, or because this person happens to be a homeless person or whatever, you might miss it. You know what I mean? So I'm striving to be open to listen twice as much as I talk. You know what I mean? And in the process of that, you get to hear it all, So, like I'm saying, with this thing, this is major. This is big. This means anybody that's going through a foreclosure right now, one of the first things you need to do is send them an affidavit of truth and a freedom of information request form that requests them to send you the original copy of whatever document that you signed with them. An original certified copy of whatever document that you signed to get into the agreement with them that says they owe you this money. You need to get a signed copy of whatever organization from that. If they can't produce that for you, then that means that they don't have it, and that means that they're trying to extort money from you, which means that you can report them to the Security Exchange Commission based upon the fact that these people are known for creating situations of predatory lending. And there is a thing known as the Truth in Lending Act, that when you put something up to buy something from somebody in commerce, that there is an unspoken contract that shit is supposed to be exactly what it said. But see, in a colorable system, that can kind of falter because there's no structure behind that. See, in a system that's based with gold or silver, there's only but so much a government can do. So there's only but so much expansion that a government can do within any given sitting. Whereas with paper money, there's no limit to the expansion you can get because everything is really based on credit. It's not based on anything that's real. So it's based upon other people saying that you can do what you're doing. So, not calling this nigga Gaddafi the savior of Africa, but he was playing both sides against the middle. And whenever you're dealing with these practices like that and you do that, eventually you're going to fall because nobody's going to play that Freemason game better than them, son. We created it for them. Like if you create first grade for a group of children and you're the teacher, you created the first grade curriculum for what that is going to be. You know how stupid you would look to them children if then after you set up the first grade and what the curriculum is going to be and they graduated or they ready for you to be the teacher, you are now sitting in the class with them waiting for another teacher to come and teach the first grade. That's essentially how these Freemasons look at these black Masons. They looking at y'all like, well, you created this shit to civilize us, and y'all used us to fight against y'all own people when y'all own people started bugging out and y'all couldn't hold each other down. So now you want me to recognize you when really you created this for you to recognize me. So if you already putting me in the sense of being your brother, when you know that can never be, but you want to claim that to be, let's say, equal with me, that means that you're reducing yourself to my level. And niggas don't get it. Because ego and pride gets involved with that decision and joining that shit, man. And a lot of these brothers and sisters are way too proud to just come out and be like, well, and keep it real. Like, I thought in doing this I would get on. Because, see, if you keep it real and acknowledge that that's what you initially did it for, then the spell or the hold of the whole shit is broken on you. Good night, Lindsay. Okay, take one and I'll go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? So you look stupid. So essentially that's how these brothers or whatever who, good night, buddy. That's how these brothers kind of look to these people, and they play them like this. Like, you mean to tell me of all the things you could be doing right now, Al Sharpton, you done marched and done all this other shit for what? To get a show on CNN? Come on, man. Amor, go into the room. It's bedtime. Nine. Now go. Like, it's maladapted. You just got to be real about where we are, guys. So that's major news. You know what I'm saying? This whole foreclosure thing. So you need to look into the deed rolls or whatever in your state, especially those people that's in Massachusetts now. Anybody got foreclosed house on, you need to send Freedom Information Act letter directly to the bank, asking them or telling them to release all information pertaining to your file and your records, especially pertaining to the debt in question of the debtor. But whenever you write them letters, you always make a difference between yourself and the debtor. The debtor is the U.S. corporation created at the time of your birth. That is your name or the name in all capital letters on the birth certificate. That is a U.S. corporation. Once you claim who and what you choose to be, it ceases to be a U.S. corporation and is now designated as a disregarded entity. So as a disregarded entity, this U.S. corporation now falls under the fiscal jurisdiction of you, yourself, and I. Therefore, any debt that this thing incurs has to be run through the living soul in order for you to discharge the debt and keep everything copacetic. You cannot do that if these people are lying about what it is you owe and what it is you don't owe, because nobody knows what they owe, because after everybody got the stimulus money, they started burning all the records. Don't believe me? Get the movie Wall Street 2, Money Never Sleeps, with Shia LaBeouf, Michael Douglas, Josh Brolin. See what they was doing with the money and the records. These so-called banksters have created the situation in which they are literally running amok, but it's only a certain core group of people. The whole world can rise above that, but you got a lot of brothers and sisters and a lot of people in general who like the world exactly the way it is, as fucked up as it is, and as messed up as it is, and they don't want nobody coming along and trying to give you or project that something is wrong with it and that this thing could actually be better. They don't want that. I also find it interesting that this is happening right around the time we're going into Scorpio. This moon specifically, right? October's new moon is going to start on October 26th. So new moons represent trigger days or initiation days or what some people call power days. These are days that whenever the moon becomes new, things are new. So you can project a new form of energy, a new intent, something that is not ordinary, something that is not necessarily in the position or vein. You already had the water one. You know? So you got to do the knowledge. Also, Scorpio is the ruler of the 8th house. Or the 8th house tends to be up for the Scorpio. And that's the house of death and regeneration. So old things becoming new things. So we're going into this first or second phase now where things are starting to decay. So I find it very symbolic that this thing comes out now at the same time as this is happening, because the country literally is decaying behind this. So that's on the 26th. 26s are very interesting days because it exists because it comes right before 26 to 28. Excuse me, right before 27. 27 is an interesting number because it's an odd number between two evens. Therefore, it's a mystical power number. So by the 28th, the Scorpio is in full, is going in direct in its first installation as it first starting, is coinciding with the day that the so-called Elenin comet is going to be the closest in its trajectory. And as it passes out past us is when we start making way for the second one. But that ain't going to happen until sometime in January. So specifically speaking, Scorpios, now is the time for you to use that desire energy to initiate a new, translated in the desire into a momentum energy, where instead of it manifesting as a desire, turn that desire into a necessity. But if that desire or necessity is based on or is based in something base, it's not going to work. The other thing I was doing in knowledge too is the fact that we are still reconciling what we perceive as good or bad or right or wrong or what we should be doing and what we are doing. That is the space, or within that space is where we are right now. And that's why we're kind of so in flux with each other and with other things in our environment. Just due to that. So now, again, is the time in this new moon period to localize that energy and figure out exactly how and what you want to do with it. So one of the rituals that they've been doing, like I said, since the Osama thing, I think Osama started the Osama, the fake killing of him happened in, what was that, in July? I think it was in July, I'm not sure. But it was within the realm of the Jason month, and as we approach the end, this is all part of, again, the ritual killing of the king, in which come one, come all, the king is dead, long live the king. In which, like for instance, let's look back historically. Let's look at where for instance, Caligula, right? You can go to the thing there. Caligula, for instance. Caligula was the nephew of, I forget his uncle's name. But his uncle was mad. But his uncle was emperor, and he ruled on a separate island, right? And in that, he turned that island into what today we would call a mind control facility, in which Caligula was, as a child, was raped, and he was put in orgies with men and animals and all types of crazy shit, seeing people hacked up, killed in all types of crazy ways or whatever. And one of the things his uncle said to him, he says, Rome does not know, but I'm nesting a viper to sit in its throne. And essentially, he was one of these people who was against the Republic, because the whole time of Rome always struggled between the ideals of its founders as a republic opposed to that of the emperor system and the empire system. The Roman state was never set out or was never set up to be an empire. The Holy Roman Empire existed already. So the Roman state technically could never really be an empire, even though it controlled a lot of lands. But the lands that it controlled were Rome was also paying tribute. Everybody would act like Rome was paying tribute everybody's paying tribute to Rome, but Rome had to pay tribute to somebody else for the right to be able to even do that. So as it always struggled with the whole republic versus the Caesardom, they would have certain emperors that would either try to work to turn it more back to a republic, or those who would turn it further into a Caesar/corporate type of government based on horrific violence. So when Caligula rose to the throne, he basically took it to the next level and basically just turned the people out. He basically was having turned senators' wives into prostitutes. He was sleeping with them in front of them. He was forcing senators to be sodomized in the gladiatorial games. He was killing whole provinces of people. So, you know, he eventually had to go. But the people who was most influential in protecting him was the Praetorian Guard. And the Praetorians were basically the military faction, or what today we refer to as the cabinet around the president. So whoever the Praetorians backed potentially would be the next emperor. So as it stands, Caligula basically had a lot of his siblings or whatever killed. So that way there would be no contenders to the throne. The only one that lasted was Claudius. But Claudius was sick. He was very sickly. So nobody seen him as a threat. So after the Praetorian Guard killed Caligula, there was nobody left for them to put as the emperor, which would then mean that the Praetorian Guard would then have to be disbanded, and then Rome would then revert back to a republic in which everybody that was sitting as in the government would then have to be tried as criminals and then executed for treason. So, like any devil, what they decide to do is instead of choosing the devil that they don't know, they choose the one they do. So they go to Claudius and offer him the Caesarship. Claudius takes it, and then his first act is having the guy killed who killed Caligula. But the guy who killed Caligula was also the guy who told Claudius and involved Claudius in it, you see. So Claudius basically killed the only witness to the murder, so that way when he came in and became president, nobody could say who did what. And then him producing the lone gunman, the lone swordsman, right, the lone assassin, the guy who just all out the blue decided to kill the emperor and passed all the Praetorian Guards to do it, is now the patsy. So that happened again in Rome, okay? But that just happened last week, like 3-4 days ago, with the killing of this dude, who, again, I'm not advocating saying he was a great man and none of that. I'm just saying that he was just like the rest of them, playing both sides against the middle. There ain't no real difference between him and Farrakhan. To me, you know what I'm saying? In my opinion, they both basically is, involved to the point they both was getting money together. So how you going after him, but you ain't going after him? You know what I'm saying? How you mad at him? He the one. That's like when a brother will go and shoot another brother, and then when the cop come with the same gun you got, you probably got even a better gun than him. He bounced like this dude in Philadelphia. How you gonna go into the bar with an AK-57, man? Spray the whole shit up, bounce. You know what I'm saying? And then go and turn yourself in. Like, you got an AK-47, dude. You done already committed. You already in. You know what I'm saying? Like, you already in. You done already committed to taking it to the next level. So they already treat you like that. But people like that they like. You know what I'm saying? They'll probably get less time than somebody who shot one person. You see what I'm saying? Because it's an indictment on gun control for them, and it's also another indictment on black males, and then it's also another indictment on black social situations, meaning that we can't get together socially without killing each other. That's why there always has to be police presence there, even though most of the time there are more incidents where people are having fun and not hurting and killing each other than there are that are. But based on advertising, they have to go the opposite way with it. So, again, we can be hardcore on one end, but then when it comes to certain other situations, we bitch up. And it's that flip-flop type attitude that keeps us in a state of flux almost, moving ahead but then moving behind almost at the same time. Another thing I peeped is that they just put out reports, and they're basically saying that nationwide crime is actually down 15%, whereas unemployment is up. Now, based on their old averages, they used to say the opposite, that whenever unemployment was up, crime was then also up. But now they're saying that unemployment is way up, but crime itself is way down. However, crime, let's look at a city like New York, for instance, which is the Empire State, meaning that New York is the template for all of the other states, which is why if you make it there, you can make it anywhere. And, you know, it never sleeps because it's literally a beast, you know, an animal that can devour you if you don't know its language. So essentially, in New York, crime constitutes, or the money, revenue from crime, constitutes 24% of the state budget, right? But nationwide, then New York contributes, then they said 20% of the overall, 20 to 25% of the overall national budget. So of that 20 to 25%, crime in New York constitutes 14% of the amount of money that goes into the money that they use to sustain themselves in the state, and then the money they got to kick up to the federal government. So we're talking, if then crime is down, that means that state income and revenue is down. You see what I'm saying? So in a situation like that, you have to get people to do crime or incite crime in order for the state to get out of the red and into the black, if you will. Therefore, political situations that arise in which you can arrest people in mass can afford you an alternative income that is based, in a sense, on crime, but is not necessarily punishable. So all the people they arrested during the Occupy Wall Street thing, or all the people they arrested in these protest things, you took them hundreds of people arrested at one time in a given day, and then the follow-up and the people that have to be paid and that. What you're looking at is a form of rebellion slash a form of rebellious refinancing. You know what I mean? Because this to add on to that, this is also why there's no real agenda, if you've noticed. There's a whole lot of things. They're basically saying everything we've been saying on this show and any other show that gets in on how this stuff has been going, and the stuff that we've been on. These people that's putting it on mainstream, there's people that's just finding out about the IMF. There's people that's just finding out about the Trilateral Commission. There's people just finding out about, like, basic shit. There's people just reading the Behold a Pale Horse or Fall of America, or there's people just hearing about black people not being slaves, okay? White people, black people, Mexican people, all people. So there's a huge need within the varying human species mind patterns to get a unified sense of consciousness to fix whatever's really broken. So you have all these people out there spouting stuff that they already heard us talk about or whatever years ago that's just getting up on it, and they are then being manipulated by the given media that is now trying to exploit then the fact that these people are just sitting there and not really doing nothing. Which then now everybody tries to use it as a photo op, to somewhat show us, the conscious people, that they actually have some sort of thoughts outside of the rhetoric they spit every day, or we know them as, or know them for. So everybody's using this baby or infancy consciousness movement, which is really a conglomeration of the Patriot movement, the Truther movement, the Birther movement, the Green movement, the LGBT movement, the who else is in there? The ACLU. So all of these are basically liberal-based, ultimately Mossad-influenced psychological operations that are at the same time exposing what's going on, raising revenue for the state, which is why they're allowed to continue. Which is why every so often something happen and the police rush people and start arresting mad people like that. Because they got to meet a quota. Everybody in the hood know, especially in New York, Brooklyn, big up Brooklyn. Everybody knew in Brooklyn when Sweep was. It was every other Thursday. So on Thursday, you just stay close to the block or just be in the crib or with the shorty, whatever, because, they would be doing sweeps because they would want to lock as many people up for Thursday, so that way they would stay locked up until that Sunday or maybe that Monday or Tuesday, and then get out. And then the cops' precinct quota would be filled for that week. Everybody knew that. Everybody at a certain age. You don't know what age growing up in the hood you remember or figured out what a DP was. But after a while, you just knew. So it's the same thing now. After a while, they've been doing this for so long, eventually somebody's going to figure it out. Yet, in figuring it out, they are throwing other things in the mix to confuse the issue even more, to pull it away from what's really going on. And what's really going on is that we were never recompensated for allowing them to usurp our republic. Not just the physical one that dealt with the colonies and all of that, but our own psychic inner soul republic that the physical outer one is based on. So the law of Ma'at was not something that was first written on the stone with the image of Ma'at. That was already written in the archetypal image of us. We just put that on a stone. We just put that into organic things and turn them into something. But see, we're dealing with a beast that will deny the most obvious. They got pyramids. We talked about it in class the other day. They got pyramids in under Japan, right under where the tsunami was at. And it's a complex. It's a giant complex that's built along the same lines as what you see in Polynesia, Malaysia, and the Naga society, with huge, finely cut 90-degree angles and all of that. They got white people that went there with the scuba gear, watched it, looked at it, checked the rock out, and is talking about how all of these perfectly symmetric 90-degree angles were just created by the rock itself, that they just broke off and eventually, formed like this. And I'm looking at this white man, and again, I'm saying white man because this is an obvious white academic, eugenic, Malthusian-based reason of so-called scientist of reason who is allowing his racial phenotypical pseudo-superiority to allow him to disavow what's in front of his face, which then shows me again that these people are not dealing with real science like that. They're dealing with the science that relates to them being the creator. So we put out something called a declaration. History is talking about something called the Declaration of Independence. What that means historically then is that a declaration was put out by the people, us, and what came to be known as the Declaration of Independence, which is really a Declaration of Independence for the colonies, right? The colonies, then that became the basis of that. And then the Constitution that was connected to that was then different from the original Constitution then that was set out by the planters or founders of the true republic. Thereby, we're talking about two different United States functioning simultaneously, of which we are not a part of the other one because we are the basis of what the other one flourished from. The same way, like I said, the whole Roman state came out of the Holy Roman Empire. That's why when you go to Rome to this day and you're there, you can look at the Acropolis, you can look at the Colosseum that is basically rotting or withering away, and then right next door you'll see this huge image of a white male with phallus out, that's mad smooth and pristine, that's supposed to be there from the same time. How this thing that's allegedly made from the same material, how this one is not just as deteriorated as this if they was there at the same time. That's because they propped up all of that shit there after the Renaissance and then again after World War II. Remember, they destroyed, nobody knows or really remembers what Europe really looked like before World War II. That's why they set up World War I, to get rid of as many dark people in Europe as possible. So why would these people then now create a search engine for you to find out your real history? Why would they do that? Why would they do anything that benefits you? Why would anyone who's been exploiting you from before you incarnated here, why would they then turn around and then give you something to help you better yourself? They would never do that unless they were going to benefit in some way. So again, they can have direct knowledge of this all in front of your face. The only reason why they can't see dark matter or dark energy under a telescope is because they can't see it with their retina. They can't look at a black man and a black woman and see that the characteristics of dark energy match him and the characteristics of dark matter match her, and that essentially physically in the world they do the same thing as the non-physical element they see. But if they see dark matter and dark energy and black people as they really are, they believe that they will go extinct. They believe that it's not enough for everybody. They do. They do. If they didn't, then there would be no such thing as a Hollywood system, a celebrity system. All that is an American monarchy. That just like in England, anybody can aspire to be a part of it. Allegedly, Kate Middleton was just a regular girl who just met this dude after he saw her walk in her underwear in the runway show, and eventually they hooked up. At least that's how the A&E show went. But either way, that's not what really happened. But that's what they're telling people that happened, and that's what people are believing and patterning their lives after. And these people can't even wipe their behinds themselves. They don't do anything. They're like literal retards. Not to diss retarded people, because retarded people are more spiritual than these people. Not to even diss them, so we can't even use that. These people are literally useless. Useless eaters. Like, think about it. What does a royal family of Europe really do? What do they really do to benefit humanity? What are they doing to make humanity better when it's their grandmother that's cashing everybody's Social Security check? What's up with that? And these are known things. These are things that anybody can go on the Google NSA search engine and find. That's why we can sit here and talk about it. So the Patriot movement evolved into the militia movement moved into the Patriot movement, and the Patriot movement moved into the militia movement, and they both combined to merge with the Republican Party and became the Tea Party. But who paid for the Tea Party in history? You see what I'm saying? So they always using you, but then they never giving you credit for nothing. And the minute you stand up and say credit, they try to say, oh, well, you was a slave. You don't know what you're talking about. And these be black people. Again, a lot of times. Because they're the first wave of defense. That's why they allowed them to be set up. Thank God for people like Steve Coakley and these other great men that came before that revealed that and fought against that. Black Herman and these people. Because if not, who knows what we'd be on? We still be thinking that it's cool to be throwing up devil horns and shit, and that don't mean nothing. That's just what people do when you get in the game. How is it then that everybody in the game is doing that? If it's just a random thing, it don't mean nothing. That's the other thing the devil do. He deny the shit that is directly that you see him doing. It's like somebody choking you, talking about, no, we're just having fun. It's okay. It's okay. It's like, yeah, but you're choking me. You're killing me. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. That's how they do. That's how they do. And they function in society like that. So again, in a state where you're constantly at warfare with something, with they got the chopped and the chopped chef and the food wars, and it's like you can't just eat a sandwich no more. You can't just watch somebody cook no more. It got to be some extreme test. It got to be everything. Got to be a damn you judged or some shit like that. That's not real. At least back with us, they used to try. They used to create shows to get us caught up. Now they just get a camera and just film niggas doing shit. You know what I'm saying? They done dummied it down crazily. So all I'm saying is we got to find aspects of this to thwart it. And one of these things that you can use now is this case where they saying that the whole foreclosure thing is a wrap. This puts an entirely different spin on the real estate market and everything, man. They got to redistribute how they give land and houses. This is the time to get into shit. So when you look into the records of whatever house, or if you're in a position of entering into a house or buying a house that's foreclosed on, you got to make sure that the bank has all of the paperwork dealing with the house. You got to demand to see it all from the original owners, from when they got it or whatever, because they may not own it. They may just be selling you the shit to get your bread, and then when the sheriff come and repossess the house, they act like it's on you, that you did something when really the paperwork they gave you was fraudulent. So this is the Supreme Court in their fiction acknowledging the same ruling of the lower court. which then, if they take it to federal Supreme Court and it becomes that, then this really puts a dent in a lot of shit. This also messes with this dude's healthcare thing, as well as this whole income tax thing. Because essentially, if the government brought out Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, that means that the title holder for everything right now is the government. If the banks don't own anything, that means that the government really is the landlord of your house, and that's not what you want. You don't want that. You don't want that. That means all the money you're paying is paying the government. That means all of the money that you got is going to the government. That's what that also means. Which means, but you're not a government employee, so you don't receive the same benefits as let's say, a postal worker or whatever. Because remember, they still got you as 14th Amendment status, which came from the whole Declaration of Independence of the colonies, not a declaration of the representatives of the United States of America and General Congress assembled within the family of nations. That's your ancestors. That could be represented by the 48 star red, white, and blue flag, historic flag of the United States of America on the original Continental Congress, aka the Iroquois Confederacy, which is really one and the same thing. But when I say Iroquois Confederacy, I'm not talking about a bunch of Hollywood-looking Indians with feathers sitting around a campfire. I'm talking about a bunch of original black men in places like Philadelphia and cities with roads and gas lights and all of that. That was already over here before the people got here. Those colonies, when these colonies came, the land that they got, it was already hooked up. Everything these people got, it was handed to them. The only thing their ancestors worked for was the first generation of them that became Christian mercenaries for us, privateers or whatever for us. And we gave them letters of marque to be able to go and fight other Moors on our behalf. And we gave them freedom and Freemasonic secrets to come out. And once enough of them did that, each one that existed in whatever Moorish empire dominion that we was in, they all merged together. And then it was a universal coup d'etat in the revolution that started in France that ended up here and usurped the Moors, in which the Freemasons that helped them get there, black Moorish Freemasons that helped them get there, had to then become their stewards while they was here, just to be able to protect the artifacts. But then they even cut them out of that and put the Jews in their place and only made them propagandists or pastors for their church congregations that were really mind control operations to instill the Caucasoid image as God in the minds of other people who were not Caucasian specifically. To allow the Caucasian phenotype to then be thrust into the annals or the upper echelons of society to be strived to be like, to then create a crab in a barrel mentality of the other so-called races to then distance them all from us. Us specifically in the phenotype as we all are, being that we represent everybody in general. So the war between the ancients and the modern that they talk about, and all of these wars that came after the so-called Revolutionary War, were really all Freemasonic wars. They were not what they were in the public eye. The thing that brought them all together in secret in the end was the Freemasonic ties through the occult. That's why the same practice was distributed after the destruction of Germany, in which all of these people were then taken the same way that they did back in the day, taken to different countries and then put in play, and then eventually did a mass coup d'etat and then took over these countries and then set out to turn those countries into pseudo neo-Nazi, with those countries into from native pursuits into neo-Nazi pursuits, like genocide and things like that, which is what's going on in Libya right now. Which is what's going on in Philly right now. Which is going on right now with the police. Life is not the constant struggle that they're telling us it is. That's what we are participating in because that's what people believe it is. It's not necessarily that because we are all wanting it to be that. They want us all to believe that we were those Neanderthals in the cave, dragging our knuckles, pulling raw meat with our teeth off of the thing, beating a woman in the head, defecating on each other to stay warm. They want us all to believe that we evolved from that state, and that's not true. If that's true, then I would be a monkey now. I can act like one all day, but that don't make me one. I make myself that. That's the difference in being a higher sentient being, choosing what state to exist in. That is a choice that you have. But they have taken the term state to mean something terran, something physical, something Caucasoid influence or created. That we all should just be lucky to be here, even though we was born here and put in the same damn work and more work instances than they did. So with that, I'm not saying that all Caucasian people don't work for what they have. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we as original people got to fly to things that they in this society seem to just open the door to or walk into or wake up as. That's what all their movies be about. They always wake up in some instances and got some type of out of control dope. Our movies, it's always we got to steal it or wind up in jail to get it or get shot trying to steal it or whatever. That's why I like that movie All About the Benjamins. It's like one of the only movies where niggas really came up. That and Waist Deep. And even that, he had to fake his death. He had to become Osiris on some Denzel Deja Vu shit to get away. To be with his family. Because they don't want you to see a real black family that's not rapping, that's not acting, that's not making you laugh all the damn time. They got 50 billion white family shows with the white man, the white woman, the white man, the white man, the black baby, the white woman, the teenage daughter, the gay son. They got all types of shit like that. With us, it's always a damn comedy, man. Yeah, we're funny people. That's great. But when you always put us in the context of entertaining somebody, subconsciously, the race comes off minstrelish. That's just basic psychology, man. But when you bring that up, everybody want to argue you down like, oh, well, that's keeping you down, or that's focusing on the part of this that's no, it's part of it's it. This is it. We are people of history, of significance, that is so monumentous that everybody got to act like it ain't real, including us. And if I could say one thing, it would just be that. It's us. You don't see these white men white police just spraying mace in little white kids' faces. You don't see Elian Gonzalez situations with white kids like that, except in Waco, and they burnt all them people up themselves. It's a systematic need of this industry to perpetuate itself through artificial means by convincing people that they're machines. By convincing you that you're a doll, that it's better to be something made up. You understand? Every magazine that's on the stand is telling the black woman that she's not enough, that she's not attractive enough, her ass ain't big enough, her breasts ain't big enough, her lips ain't big enough, or it's not small enough. That wasn't a thing that black women fed into. That was a thing that was cultivated in them through the black feminist movement. Read the book written by Alice Walker's daughter about the mind control shit her mother used to flip on her. You'll see. Just like the mind control shit they was doing in the movie Antoine Fisher and Precious. All of that is a form of MK Naomi programming, making you feel that you only momentary, that you nothing, that you worthless because you black. That if you wasn't black, you would have more. That's what subconsciously a lot of us think, yo, and that's real. A lot of us that even talk that pro-black shit, a lot of us even think that still. Niggas go to Europe, switch it up quick. Be like 8 white bitches. You know what I mean? Then come to America, be on some, for the sister shit, red, black, and green shit. Wow. It's a perpetual state of flux. And I'm illustrating this to show how these significant moments of ritual killings are poignant in their overall development of the plan. And the plan is to push everything into utter desperation, desolation. Go online and look at Thomas Cole's rendition of paintings called The Course of Empire, if you haven't seen it already, and you'll see what I mean about how it comes. And this empire was founded through Freemasonic ties that not everybody was down with. And that is the big elephant in the room that is holding everybody back, because nobody can admit that they down with it or that it's even real. Or when they do admit it, they admit it to the point where they act like, yeah, well, I'm a judge and he's a judge and she's a senator and he's a congressman and we're all Masons, but it doesn't mean that we're, congressing together and talking about how to rule you guys. But how would I know that? And then on the level that we're on, when you join up with certain things and you participate in certain things, those secrets become the tie that bonds you, but those secrets also turn you against each other. And we see that played out in our community all the time. Therefore, it is not we in Super Heru Radio promoting this, us reporting this, which is what we're supposed to do. Yet in doing that, we then people can take it how they will, you see. And will is manifested from the intent. Will is great. Have all the will in the world, but if there's no intent, what is that will going to do? It's going to run wild. It's going to be chaotic, which is glorious and beautiful in the expression. Yet chaos, even chaos cannot exist as itself totally, because ultimately it feeds on itself. You put a bunch of piranhas in a thing and see some meat in there and they ate all the meat, and then you stop feeding them, eventually they're going to start going in on each other. Down to one. And that one will start to eat itself or try to eat itself. So what was the Shakespearean quote? What is a man if he gaineth the world, yet loses his soul? These are the when we assume that we have it all, we tempt the foreshadowing God. So none of these orders, none of us got it all. Yet we will, because it's already been scripted to be such. Yet, to achieve that, we've got to get to the point of reconciliation of the Temple of Solomon, which is the inner soul of man, which is the singularity that we all manifest out of. So if we can project our consciousness within that, we free up the energy of the brain to be able to achieve even greater heights and things of a superhuman and supernatural nature. Yet the activity in that is stimulated by the constant reinforcement of the beauty of the essence of God, which is the archetype of God, which is the mother, father, father, mother God. The archetype of man, woman, child. So now we live in this era where everything is meant to challenge that, to say that that it's not important. It's okay. It's all right if there's no black people. There shouldn't be any people. Everybody should just be all mixed, and then there'll be no problems. Are you crazy? There'll be even more problems. Things in nature exist for a reason. This white man got you thinking that you are the epitome of reality when the earth is really a speck within. It is the physical representation of us and what we choose to represent for ourselves together that allows us to spiritually ascend to the point that we don't need an expression to do that. Imagine being able to express yourself without the need of expression. Imagine what it would be like to be you without a physical body to physically represent you, but you still be everything you are. Imagine being able to see without using your eyes and leaving your eyes open to do other things. This is the shit they don't want us to build on, because this is the work. This is the actual stuff that you have to do as an individual to get to a point that when you do it collectively, it's functioning on the level that it's supposed to. You can't be in a meditative ritual sense when 8 people on the ritual, but this one is thinking about their taxes, and then this one is thinking about where they gonna pick up their kid, and then this one thinking about how he gonna, bounce from his baby mother crib to his girlfriend's house. Like, you know what I'm saying? This is what's going on. I'm not making this up, yo. This is what's going on in our community. Make sure. Am I on? Let me check. Let me know if I'm on, y'all. Making sure. But yeah, essentially it's coming down to that, guys. So with this whole push in Africa thing, it's an all-out assault to keep and kick the Chinese out. Chinese have to go out at all costs. Therefore, strategic points of interest are Nigeria, Turkey, Belgrade, Pakistan, Sudan, Chad, Central African Republic, and something that they're going to refer to as the Lord's Revolution Army, which is a conglomerate of a bunch of hit squads trained Mossad / old school Naomi programming from Rwanda days and Angola even. And they are basically there to wreak havoc in the nation to bring more UN troops in. But the UN troops are worse than the warlords in them, because they train them not only, but they think they better. And they look at all of the Africans as savages. Because the UN thing is really about dehumanizing black people, But there's aspects in it that you could use and flip if you know how to freak it, like anything else. But essentially, in foreign policy, the UN is a joke. So these African nations essentially are all going to get, or they're going to try to annex them, which is essentially what they're trying to do in Libya. But the Libyan people are so crazy, and have now reached this whole they have this overwhelming guilt of killing this dude like this, in which now they're going to have to write a new history for themselves, in which now they're going to have to get outside consultants and these people to allow them to stimulate a resolve to disassociate from the karma. So essentially, this is going to lead to, like I said, the whole Nigerian annexation thing, as well as the fictitious false flag thing in that they're going to pop off in Pakistan with this pipeline thing, because they almost got it done. That's why they're trying to get out of Iraq. So, yeah, so don't be surprised if you see that go down. And don't be surprised if it turns out to be a situation where people are forced to become like refugee status, because they want to move as many people out to be able to move as many consultants and different Americanized CIA asset Libyans in there to steer the government in a certain direction. Because the idea is to keep the credit system in a perpetual flow. So that perpetual flow through the credit system is going to be the thing that they use to keep themselves afloat. That's why they have to be dependent on fossil fuel. Because, see, when you're not depending upon oil or fossil fuel as your main, import-export, you are freed up. When you rely on gold to pay your debts, you don't need oil and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not really mining for that. So the level of pollution and things like that go down, and you downsize a lot of aspects of that part of the corporation. And whatever entity runs them feels like it needs every member of it to operate to its specifications. So that's what I mean. Essentially, when we look at these corporations, we're not looking at people in a building. We're looking at an entity, a living, breathing organism that was given life by another fictitious living, breathing organism called the United States. So its face is its logo, let's say. Just like any state would have its own logo. So the same way we had coats of arms that represented us when we would put it on letterheads and stuff and people would see it. To this day, you go to the College of Arms or read Burke's Peerage, you'll see these images of Moorish heads or Moors heads or Morin comps, as they call them. Either way, these are all indications that the people who were there were like this. Because you don't make images of other people if you were the people that were there. We're the only people that, let's say, to get into a comic industry, we would create their characters for them. You know what I'm saying? We would learn how to draw. We would learn how to draw white people, let's say, or not draw black people per se, or draw more white people. You know what I'm saying? So it's a situation where they, they're kind of locked into a degree. So, like I said, look into this Massachusetts decision. Look into them also, Supreme Court, I forget what state, put out a indication that the Constitution was to be void if brought up in lower courts. I think it was Ohio, but I'm not sure. But keep that. Also, while this whole thing was going on, they were working to pass the legislation to be able to implement an aspect of the so-called Obamacare bill that would start to put or start to replace, or I forget the wording they used, but start to integrate procedural, what they refer to as procedural administrations, which is to them a means of getting people to consider preemptive pregnancy, which would be after they get the abortion, agree to at some point come back and get a vasectomy or some sort of sterilization. But they actually try to get you to do a signature, make it like a legal thing, like you got to come and do that. So these are some of the things that they're working to implement during Beltane, which is, again, the Halloween rise of Scorpio or Scorpius, which is the tail end of what they refer to as Ophiuchus, or what we refer to as Quetzalcoatl, which is the feathered serpent, which some people refer to as the 13th sign, which is really a void of space. Yet any void has volume. Therefore, there's nothing there, but there is something there. And that is the mirror of reality as we appear, as we have thought we appear. Therefore, you are the holographic projection of what you would be like if you were you, wherever you are right now, listening to this or listening to me talk about this like this. This is how you would be here. but somewhere else you're like this. When I said somewhere else you're like this, whatever you thought of was probably a mirror into where you are or were at some point. Learning how to put these aspects of intuition, science, what some people refer to as magic, comprehension, and responsibility is what we initially founded our belief system on. Because our belief system gave us a cohesive way of individualizing our experiences, yet collectively experiencing them. So I could say, where were you when you heard Jam Master Jay was shot, blessed to death? Or where were you the first time you heard The Bridge Is Over? Or what stickers did you used to put on your notebook? You know what I'm saying? These things are inherent to our experience here. And they're just as important as the historic things that happen. Yet we have more on tap about things that are external to us than are internal. So I can ask the basic person what they know about Egypt, what the ancient culture of Egypt was, and they could tell me they don't know nothing. They could bluff me like they did. But if I ask them about who were the ancient ones of the big buffalo people here in America, or why is Memphis named Memphis, Tennessee, but then you also have a Memphis in Egypt, how come they name the same thing? They couldn't tell me. So again, knowing more about the outside than what was already here. There's a reason why they perpetuate you to go back to Africa. Why they want you to relinquish whatever ties you have to this place. Why? And if so, this place so bad, how come everybody dying to get here? But then once they get here, they get jaded because it's hard for them to get their money on. So they either go to crime, which then supports the economy, you see, or they become part of some sort of movement, or they opt out and join, either opt out and become counterculture, people like us, or people who join pro-culture and go all the way, Army, Yale, whatever they got to do. However tight they got to keep their ass to be in a position where they can get money, they'll do that. That means that that's what they always was doing. So I'm not going to get mad at them for always being like that. I'm just like, don't do that to me. Therefore, living in my individual experience, sharing it, but choosing what state of it to exist in. My level of involvement dictates my emotional and spiritual tie to the situation. If there's no spiritual tie to nothing, then nothing this person should do should make me that upset. So as I strive to get to that point, situations like me peeping the whole image of the two UN workers holding the black man over the black boy over the burning barrel, laughing. You know, when I see stuff like that, like you can't tell me, like there's no pictures, no Africans doing that. What I do see is pictures of Africans doing that to other Africans. And when I do see it happening, it'd be, and white people, it'd be like army shit. So at the end of these billy clubs, at the end of these barrels of these guns, at the butt of all of these guns, it'd be our skulls. Yet, until there's a situation where there's enough of us that have committed to the point that they actually going to physically represent, do something, all we can do is get ourselves spiritually ready and financially secure enough to be able to do something. That's real to me. That's really all you can do. At this stage, these niggas, whatever you try to do, that's on some like involving them some way, it don't never turn out right, man. You can't. To me, if you want to get it popping, you gotta get a bunch of people with some bread, give some money up, and then you just do something with that money. That's what I would do. Somebody who you don't even got to tell me. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not about me. That's why, in a sense, we had to do or create morally correct medium as a literal medium to be, as a literal medium for it to be a way where people can interface with us and give us donations and stuff where they can see that there's an actual, this thing is going. Because it's real like that. But in putting ourselves like that, it's us showing appreciation to all of us. Like, there's people in my life that I really don't like or haven't liked in the past, but it doesn't mean that I haven't learned from them. And I'm appreciative for that, if anything, because nothing that the Creator makes or makes happen is a waste. Therefore, there could never be anything that was so outside of whatever for it not to have some sort of essence of the Creator to come out to be better in. That's just how I look at things. But that's how I was taught our ancestors look at things. But then what gets in the way of that to me is needless ritual that becomes the object of what you're doing as opposed to what you're doing it for. So what you physically do is the physical representation body-wise of it. So you're acting out physically what it is you are making happen physically. Therefore, you are the conduit of it coming into existence. So how could this essence of this force not in some way have an aspect of you within it for it to manifest here, no matter what it is? That's why it's my belief a lot of these projections and a lot of these things that we see are really projections of us from other spaces or other times or undeveloped or primal states. They can influence your mind, but they cannot control your mind. That's the trick. They call it mind control, but it's more like mind influence. To influence you to do things over time through redundant behaviors, through modes of diet. Eat this and you'll be like this. Some of the people I know who don't eat meat are some of the most horrible people to be around. And I don't eat meat like that. But some of these meat eaters are very jovial, very happy. Some of these people who don't, just lettuce and kettle and all of that all day, it's a lot, man. Trying to get a call in. Yeah, man. You know, like people get mad at people who eat fish, or you're not really vegan. Like people who get really, really staunch about stuff like that, you got to watch them. Because those are people that are very material. You have to understand the metaphysical, conscious community is a labyrinth, and it's a place also for great intellectual thinkers and great spiritual consciousness and development. You know, it's a place that got us all together. So it's definitely positive. That there's an aspect to it that is being turned to a militaristic type of way. a militaristic type of thinking to isolate certain groups from other groups, and is also being used as a means to influence how people view other people. And that's wrong, man. That's propaganda. That's part of the state. You know, it's really real, man. But we don't deal with that a lot. You know what I mean? We don't deal with that aspect of reality where we believe that these things that we go through is not really happening. We deny it while it's happening to us. And that's the control. That's similar to, like I said, somebody choking you and you saying, stop choking me, and they be like, and they're like, I'm not choking you. I'm not choking you. It's like, yes, you are. It's like, no, I'm not. Wow. And that's how they roll. So if this is how they are, this is how they're going to be. So you got to let them be that and be the best you can be to thwart that from rising within you, which would then attract them, which is that, to you, which then makes you a part of that. And then you start, getting mad when people diss that or try to act like whatever. And then before you know it, that's you. You done took the oath to be down with them and you don't even know. This is why they're trying to merge people with animals and cows and shit like that. They want people to be, domesticated, literally. They want to perpetuate a false idea of what we are or we're supposed to be. And that's wrong. That's not what our ancestors left for us. But they want us to believe that our ancestors are their ancestors, when really their ancestors are ours, and vice versa. Because we was already here. They had to come out of somebody. That's why they're so fixed on us. They're not fixed on the Chinese and the Japanese and the rest of these people the same way. They respect them people to a degree where they don't try to openly take anymore what them people have created for themselves. Let you try to create a nation somewhere. Let you try to get an army going. See what these people try to do. And that's what I'm saying. It's blatantly not fair. At least even the Puerto Ricans, they really play them. They really, people who believe that they're Puerto Rican, they really go in on y'all because they make you believe that you have a nation in the traditional sense, and what you have essentially is an occupied territory with religious sanctions that make it a port of call for whatever they want to do. That's when they was flipping the VA thing, all of that, So they make you pay taxes, but then you can't vote. You can't, influence nothing, but you pay them money. What kind of shit is that? They went to war for that. Remember, that's a liberty or give me death. There's no difference between that statement and by any means necessary. It's the same thing. Or anything or any idiom that represents us taking what is ours. You know what I mean? West Side bitch. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Because essentially it's the same spirit doing it. It's the same intent behind the will that is exchanging the political ideology for physical revolution. That aspect of the spirit, to me, started or was really taken out when they did in Khalid Muhammad, rest of that. I was a real loss. But again, man, he was a more. He said he was a more. He was next level, man. Like, if he was running the Nation of Islam, you know what I'm saying? You imagine? Nah, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. And when I say they, I'm talking about that alternative government that exists within every individual and is physically represented by the one we know exists. In Harry Potter, they call it Voldemort. You know? So it's definitely a historical play at work in this whole thing. And this ritual really is not going to bode well for them. Yet, like all things they do, it seems like, you know, they've done it, they're getting away with it, you know? And that's it. They're putting a spin on it. Like, they're not talking about Osama no more. How come you didn't parade him in the street? Because they didn't kill him. If this person that killed his Gaddafi. Because again, man, this man has $65 billion. You understand? He has $65 billion. $65 billion. You know how much a clone costs? A clone is like, you can get a clone for like, I'm thinking like $5 million. You can get a good clone for like $5 million. One that could walk around and people believe is like you. Needs to be you for like $5 million. So you imagine $65 billion. You know how many clones you could have? They got the factory. You've seen it in the movie The Island. But again, it's Hollywood, right? They just built that for that day. They just built that whole set for that movie, and then after the movie, they tore it down. No, they filmed that thing in a real military silo that right now you could buy. There's military silos for sale online. You could buy one right now if you got like $10 million. Fully equipped because they don't have any money. They took the gold out of Fort Knox at 55 during the Cold War. It was a wrap. That's what they made the movie Goldfinger about. It's a wrap. There's no gold. There's no money. That's why they freeze. Whenever somebody starts talking about going to gold or euros, these people really get scared that somebody wind up dead. It happened with Ron Brown. When they started investigating the Whitewater shit, where he was laundering the money in euros, he wound up dead on the side of a mountain. It happened with the whole cabinet of, I think it was Sweden or something like that. It crashed the whole plane into the mountain. Killed everybody, but his twin brother, the president had a twin brother who lived, and the twin brother voted, against it and, went for credit. Same thing with, the kid they killed from Def Jam, left for dead. That whole thing. There's espionage in that that people are not even dealing with. They gloss over that like that didn't even happen. But they gotta do that because these brothers, they don't know what they really dealing with. They think they know, but they don't really know. But they just did it again with this dude. They did it with Saddam. When Saddam said, he took all of the money they gave him to bomb Iran, flipped all of that into palaces, bitches, and underground bunkers and stuff. And he took some of that also and started buying euros and started buying the euros to buy gold. And happened to be going to the same guy in Switzerland that Gaddafi was going to. That guy happened to die in the bombing by that Freemasonic white patsy slash mind control dude, like they got to take the fall for the WikiLeaks, who's also like the guy that's taking the fall for the Michael Jackson thing. So all of these guys are the same guy. All of these guys are the same guy. All of these guys are orchestrated to take the fall. That's how it works. That's the position that they were put in. And all of these guys, if you look at their history, they all have ties to Navy intelligence, Army intelligence, whatever. So now all the countries that Gaddafi was getting ready to deal with the gold and all that, become targets. African countries become targets. These countries that have become targets also happen to be the same countries that have been attacked by the Lord's Revolution Army. It all seems to work together. It all seems to be so random that there seems to be some sort of cohesion to it. So that makes it very, very blatant to me. And now is the time for us to start to understand that. So the geopolitical spectrum in the next coming weeks is going to be crazy based upon this effect on the stock market and everything else. Because the solar flare index is starting to increase, which also always seems to have an effect on the stock market. So, look out for stuff like that. So definitely be safe. Thank you guys for coming through and building with us. You can holler at me at houseofl@hotmail.com, and we'll send you flyers for the new class we have coming up. Think you'll enjoy it. Those people in the present class, it's been great. It's really been unfolding as I'd liked. And inshallah, we could do it again. And again, email me at houseofl@hotmail.com. You can also check out www.aseertheducateers.com, as well as www.superheru.com, as well as www.sagaassad.com. Also, peace to all of those who have been supporting us and continue to do so. We really appreciate it. And we got the yoga DVD and the book coming real soon. We're at the finishing stages now. So inshallah, it will manifest as such. So with your help and God willing, we can make it happen. And I really appreciate your appreciation of our work. So with that, we say peace humbly, and inshallah, we'll speak to you guys again. Super Heru Radio. Peace.